My granddaughter asked why her college checks stopped. I told her to ask her parents and decided to check myself. Turns out her parents stole all my payments. My name is Martin Hale. I was 68 and widowed 5 years. I kept things simple. I cooked the same breakfast most mornings. I walked the same block with the same pair of old boots. I kept a clean ledger for bills and a small wooden box for anything that truly mattered. Since my wife died, that was how I held the house together. Quiet routines, paid promises. I was not a saint. I could be stubborn. I could hold a grudge. But I believed in paying what I owed. When I told my grandkids I would help with college, I wrote it down, and I set the money aside. I did it for what my wife would have wanted. She was a teacher. She believed in doors opening, not closing. I tried to honor that. Her call came on a Sunday afternoon. The house was quiet. I had a pot of soup on the stove and the game on mute. She did not sound angry. She sounded small. She said the school had put a hold on her account, and she could not register for next term. She asked if I had changed my mind. She said she was sorry if she had done something to upset me. I told her I had not changed my mind. I told her to talk to her parents and then call me back. My voice stayed even. I did not want to scare her. I kept her on the line long enough to hear her breathe, to hear the little catch she gets when she is trying not to cry. Then I said I would check my records, and that I loved her, and that we would get it sorted out. After I hung up, I stood for a long time with my hand on the counter. I thought about my wife at the kitchen table, rubbing lemon oil into the old hutch, laying out bills in neat stacks, saying, "Hope is a budget too." I had written 6 checks since August. Tuition, housing, books. I had mailed them on time. I had watched the amounts clear my bank like clockwork. So why had the school not seen the money? The question sat heavy in me. There are simple mistakes in this world. Mail gets lost. Numbers get transposed. But there are other things too. Choices. Hands that move what is not theirs. The call from my granddaughter put a thin crack in my calm. I felt it widening. I went to the desk in the den. I opened the drawer and took out my ledger, the check register, and the last 3 stubs. I laid them side by side under the lamp. The dates lined up. The amounts were right. The notes in the memo line were careful and plain. I had done what I promised. I told myself not to jump to the worst. I told myself to start simple. Verify, then accuse. I took a breath and reached for the phone. The first place I would call was the school. I wanted to hear it from them. I wanted a clean answer from a clean source. And if I did not get that, I would keep going until I did. I dialed the bursar's office and listened to it ring. The bursar's office was closed for the weekend, so I sat in my kitchen and waited for morning. The room still had my wife's order in it. Glass jar of wooden spoons. 2 placemats she stitched years ago. The lemon oil lived in the cabinet. I could smell it when the air moved. I rested my hand on the table and felt the small cuts in the wood we never sanded out. We kept those. They reminded us of family meals and elbows and laughter. You keep marks that matter. I took out the check register again. I touched each line with my finger to slow my mind down. I wrote things in clear block letters. Date, amount, payee. I had written my granddaughter's legal name each time. I had addressed the envelopes to her campus mailbox the same way. I had stamped them and walked them to the mailbox at the end of my street. No guesses, no shortcuts. It calmed me to remember that I had done my part. I looked at my granddaughter's picture on the fridge. She wore a thrift store winter coat and a smile too big for her face. She was the first in our line to go off and sleep on campus. When I wrote that first check, I told my wife's photo on the mantel. I said, "Look, June, we did it. The old promise of a better shot paid in full." I thought about my son and his wife. They were not bad people by birth. They were shiny. They liked new things. They had moved north for jobs in new buildings. They liked reward points and credit cards, and the way a phone could buy anything. They liked to talk about strategies. I liked to talk about work. That was our split, I guess. Not evil. Just a tilt that looked small until it mattered. I tried to be fair. Maybe they had stepped in to help. Maybe they had shuffled money to cover a late fee, and it would all make sense in the light. I could believe that for a night. I could not sleep well, but I could give them that. I had raised that boy. I had held him when he was sick. I had watched him scrape his knee on our driveway and cry into my shirt. Those memories do not cancel out a theft, but they slow the hand that points. Morning came like it always does. I made coffee. I stood at the sink and watched the light in the yard. Then I wiped the counter, picked up the phone, and called the bursar as soon as the clock said 8. I needed the truth. I wanted it clean, and I was ready to live with whatever followed. The woman on the line found my granddaughter's account. She read the screen. Then she said the words I knew were coming. No payments posted this term. I asked for the line items like a man checking the tide. I wrote down what she said. Tuition balance, housing balance, late fee. I thanked her, and I kept my voice steady. When I hung up, the house felt colder. The game from last night still sat paused on the screen. I turned it off. I did not want noise. I called my bank. The man on the phone was kind. He said he could see the 6 checks. He said each one had cleared. He could send me images if I needed them. I wrote down the clearance dates. They lined up with the school's due dates. I felt a tightness in my throat. Money had left me. It had hit a bank. It had not paid the school. That is a fact. Facts do not care who you love. I stood at the window and watched a neighbor's dog trot along the fence. I thought about June again. She would have already made a list. She would have already called our son with a soft voice that still left no room to wriggle. She was better at that. I was more direct. I knew if I went in hot, I might say something I could not take back. I did not want to swing and miss. I wanted to land clean. I called my granddaughter again. I told her I had spoken to the school and that I was on it. I told her to go to class. I told her to breathe. She cried then. Not loud. Wet little sounds that pull at a man. I felt old and strong at the same time. I told her her education was not a question. I told her I had promised her grandmother, and I had promised her. I do not break promises. After that, I sat with my coffee and decided I would go see my son. No texts, no phone calls. I wanted to look at his face. I wanted to give him the dignity of telling me his side in his own kitchen, with his own light on his own dishes. It felt right. It also felt risky. I could not unhear whatever came out of his mouth. I could not unsee whatever sat in his eyes. On my way out the door, I pulled open the desk and slid the ledger and check stubs into my briefcase. I added a small stack of stamped envelopes and a notepad. Not to wave around, just so I had what I needed if the world decided to tremble. I locked the door and touched the frame the way I always do. Then I got in the car and drove toward their subdivision, where every street had a tree name and the houses all looked like the same polite grin. I parked at the curb. I sat for a minute and breathed until my hands were steady. Then I picked up the briefcase, walked to the door, and rang the bell. They opened the door with bright faces like hosts on a show. My son hugged me. My daughter-in-law called me Dad with a shine in her eyes. The kitchen smelled like toast and cinnamon. A new coffee machine sat on the counter. I noticed details because that is what I do. The details keep a man honest. We sat. She poured me coffee in a thick white mug. He asked about my knee. I told him it was fine. I waited. He waited too. That told me he knew something. Finally, I set the mug down and said it plain. She called me, I said. She asked why the check stopped. The school has nothing posted this term. My checks cleared. They did not look surprised. My son leaned back a bit and rubbed his jaw like he was about to explain a tax rule. My daughter-in-law gave me a smile that did not reach her eyes. "It's handled," my son said. "Handled where?" I asked. "In our account first," she said. "For points. It is more efficient this way. We front it, then we align everything at the end of the month. Better credit score." You know, I let the words sit on the table like a wet rag. I looked at my son, not her. "Is that what you told her?" I asked. "That it was more efficient than being registered for classes?" He shifted in his chair. He did not answer fast. That was the tell. When a man has truth, it jumps out. When a man has a story, it has to find its shoes. "We're smoothing cash flow," he said. "You know how it is. Everything hits at once. You can trust us." "I do not trust systems," I said. "I trust people." She laughed then. It was a small sound like a fork on a plate. "You're old school, Dad." "Relax, we've got it. The university is slow anyway. It will all clear." I felt heat in my neck. I kept my voice level. "Then show me," I said. "Show me the transfers. Show me the payments. Show me your part so I can sleep." Her smile thinned. "We do not need to prove ourselves to you," she said. "This is our family. Our child. We are managing it." I looked at my son one last time. He stared at the counter. He did not meet my eyes. That was when the doubt I had groomed like a plant turned into something harder. Not a theory, a fact in the making. I stood up. I thanked them for the coffee. I told them I would be in touch. I left the mug where it was, half full, cooling. My hands were steady as I picked up the briefcase and walked back to the car. Their story sounded clean, but it rang thin. And thin stories tear when you pull on them. I went to the bank with my briefcase. The manager knew me. He took me to his desk and pulled up the check images. 6 fronts, 6 backs, my writing on the fronts. On the backs, my granddaughter's name in a shaky hand that was not hers. Under it, my daughter-in-law's account numbers. The manager looked at me. "Do you recognize this endorsement?" "No," I said. "That is not her." He printed the images. He slid them to me. "You can file a simple report," he said. "We'll review and contact the other bank." I signed one page. He stamped it. He totaled the 6 checks on a yellow slip. The number was large enough to make my jaw tighten. "Will this move fast?" I asked. "Faster than it used to," he said. I put the images in the briefcase. My hands were steady. I walked out of the branch and stood in the sunlight. Feelings had to wait. Proof came first. I looked at the gray pages again. The facts were plain. Money left me. It landed where it should not. My granddaughter was the one paying the price. I closed the briefcase and headed to the car. I had what I needed. Now I had to use it. I started the engine. My phone rang. I let it ring. First things first. I drove home to make copies and plan my next move. At the kitchen table, I laid out the stamped images. I made 3 clean copy sets. I kept one, and I put 2 in envelopes. The bank emailed the report form, 1 page. I printed it, checked the box that said the endorsements were not authorized, signed, and drove it back. The manager met me halfway and nodded. "There may be a temporary hold on the destination account," he said. "That's standard." I heard the words and pictured my son at a checkout line. I did not like it. I also did not blink. My job was to fix harm, not to cushion pride. On the way home, I called my granddaughter. "I have seen the images," I said. "The money didn't reach the school." "You did nothing wrong. I am fixing it now," she cried. "Is Mom involved?" "We will talk about that later," I said. "Go to class. Eat. I've got you." When we hung up, my son called. No message. Then he called again. "Call me." "Right now," he said on voicemail. His voice had a hard edge. I put the phone down and walked to the den. I lifted the rug. I unlocked the floor safe. Dry paper smell. The pale blue folder came up into my hands. I set it on the table and opened to the page with his signature. The blue folder was from the year we helped them with the house. One signed note. Simple terms. Pay us back in steady pieces. If there was dishonesty with family funds, we could ask for the rest sooner. That one line was why my wife had been the smarter one. I read my son's name and felt two things at once: love and anger. Both true. Only one could decide what I did next. I called a friend who had helped file the paper back then. He listened. "You have enough," he said. "Use it to stop the harm. Keep it simple." "That is all I want," I said. "Her tuition paid, the money back, and a line they cannot cross again." "Then set the line," he said. "Put it in writing. Attach the images. Give them a date." I nodded even though he could not see me. "I'll bring the folder by." I closed the blue cover and slid it into my briefcase. I put the safe away and smoothed the rug. The house felt steady again. I needed that. My phone buzzed on the table. A text from my son. "What did you do?" I looked at the words for a long second. Then I turned the phone face down. I picked up the briefcase and headed for my friend's office. We met over the bakery. No drama. He read the pages and pushed a notepad toward me. "Say only what matters," he said. "What happened? What you expect? When—" We wrote a one-page letter. Plain language. The checks were misused. I would pay the school directly from now on. They owed me the total by a clear date. If not, I would act under the old note. No threats, just facts. He pointed to the envelope. "Send it certified," he said, "and pay the school in person. Walk out with a receipt. Send her a photo of it. She needs to see who kept the promise." "That I can do today," I said. We printed the letter. I signed it. I mailed a copy certified and kept one in the briefcase with the blue folder. My son's name sat on both. On the drive home, my hands felt lighter on the wheel. Not happy, clear. At the table, I set an alarm for morning. I wrote 2 lines on a sticky note and stuck it to the briefcase. Pay school. Send receipt. My phone buzzed again across the room. I let it buzz. Clean steps. No shouting. Tomorrow I would stand at the bursar's desk with a cashier's check. Tomorrow I would reveal all the truth. Tomorrow the fate of my family is going to be sealed with their intentions. Justice is almost there. But before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is where you are now. Morning came clear. I put the brown envelope in my briefcase and drove to their house. I did not want a scene at the door, so I did it by the book. I left a plain duplicate under their front door and took a photo with the timestamp. The certified copy had already gone out yesterday at the post office with return receipt and tracking. The stamped receipt sat in my folder. A clock had started, and it was not my clock anymore. Back home, I laid everything out on the kitchen table. Letter, check images, receipts. The blue folder stayed on the right, closed. My granddaughter's photo was still on the fridge. I looked at her smile and felt the same mix I had felt all week. Love and anger layered tight. The love had to drive. If anger drove, we would crash. I texted my granddaughter. "At the school at noon. I will handle it." She wrote back a single heart. She did not ask for more. She trusted me. That put steel in my spine. My phone buzzed with a tracking update. Delivered. Signature obtained. Good. No more pretending they did not know. My phone lit up with a string of messages from my son. "What is this letter?" "You are overreacting. We were managing cash flow. Do not threaten my family." I read each one. I did not answer. The letter had all my words for now. I picked up the briefcase and headed for the door. As I locked it, I looked back at the room. It felt settled. I had done what I could do in this house. The next part needed other rooms and other people. On the porch, my phone rang with his name on the screen. I let it go to voicemail. Then I set the phone to silent and walked to the car. I had an appointment with a bursar and a cashier's window. By noon, one thing would be true again. She would be in classes. And by dusk, another thing would be true. They would know I was not bluffing. I was 2 blocks from campus when my phone finally broke through silent mode. It was my son. I answered. "You froze our account," he said. His voice was tight. "At the grocery store." In front of everyone. "I filed a report with my bank," I said. "The images show misuse." "That is their action, not mine." "You humiliated us," he said. "We were going to square it up at the end of the month." "You took money that did not belong to you," I said. "You put her school at risk." "It is family money," he snapped. "We're family." "Family keeps promises," I said. "Family does not sign a child's name and move funds for points." Silence. I heard him breathe. I pictured him looking at her, looking for a line to use. "We can handle this without mail and threats," he said, softer now. "The letter is not a threat," I said. "It is a line. Pay what you owe by the date. Do not touch her accounts again. After that we talk." He tried the old note next. "That paper from years ago? You would pull that on your son?" "That paper is a promise you made," I said. "I am asking you to keep it." His voice rose. "You are choosing her over us." "I am choosing right over wrong," I said. "The rest is on you." More silence. Then he said, "If you do this, do not come around here for a while." I let the words settle. They hurt, but they were not new. "I will not come around until this is fixed," I said. "You set that, not me." I hung up. My hands shook for a second on the wheel, then steadied. The call had stripped the last varnish off the story. They were not confused. They were cornered. That was different. I parked, took the briefcase, and headed toward the student accounts office. One promise first. The rest could wait. The bursar's office felt like order. Numbers, windows, a line that moved. I told the clerk my granddaughter's name. I showed my ID. I slid a cashier's check across the counter. Plain steps, no drama. She pulled up the account, took the check, typed, and printed a receipt. She stamped it and handed it over. "Your granddaughter will be cleared to register this afternoon," she said. "Thank you," I said. My voice came out rough. I did not realize I had been holding my breath. I stepped to the side and took a photo of the receipt. I sent it to my granddaughter with a short line. Paid. Register today. 3 dots blinked, then a flood. Thank yous, a crying face typed out with words, a picture of her in a hallway with her book bag. I smiled without meaning to. The knot in my chest eased. I sent the same photo to my son and his wife. No message, just the proof. Seconds later, my phone rang. I let it go. They had already used up their words for the day. On the way out, I stopped at a bench and looked over the campus. Kids crossed the grass and talked with their hands. This was what the money was for. Not points, not show. A desk, a class, a head held up. I walked to the cashier's window and asked for a schedule of next term's due dates. The clerk slid a paper to me. I folded it and put it in the briefcase with the receipt. From now on, payments would go from me to this counter. No middle stops, no managing. My phone buzzed again. A text from my granddaughter. "Can I call you tonight? After class?" I wrote back, "Any time." As I reached for the door, my friend texted, "If they ignore the letter, bring the folder. The clerk said we can file next week if needed." The room felt smaller for a moment, then right-sized again. If they refused to make it right, we would take it to a place where refusal had a cost. I pushed the door open and stepped into the light. The first promise was kept. The next line waited. They did not pay by the date in the letter, so I showed up at the courthouse with my briefcase. A small room, a judge in glasses, no drama. A few people in the benches, bored and tired. My son and his wife sat at the other table. She stared at the floor. He studied the ceiling like answers lived there. The judge asked what brought us in. I said, 6 checks meant for tuition were deposited to an account that was not my granddaughter's. I have the images and the bank's report. I asked for repayment by a date. It did not come. I am paying the school directly now. I handed up a thin packet. Images on top. The one-page letter under that. The 2 mail receipts. The blue folder stayed zipped. I had not needed it yet. My son spoke next. He said words like timing and cash flow. He said family. The judge listened, then asked one question. Did you deposit checks meant for tuition into your own account? He shifted. We handled them first, he said. The judge nodded once. Then this is simple, she said. You will return the full amount by set dates. Miss one, and the other party may enforce any agreement you signed previously. Her eyes moved to me. You will continue paying the school directly. That protects the student. Yes, Your Honor, I said. She wrote the dates on a sheet and slid copies to both tables. If either side misses a step, come back. I do not want to see you back. We stood. My son would not look at me. My daughter-in-law's mouth was a thin line. As we walked out, she muttered, You could have kept this in the family. I stopped and turned. I did, I said. This is what family looks like when someone steals. Her eyes flashed. My son touched her elbow and pulled her away. I stepped into the hallway and dialed my granddaughter. You are cleared, I said. And you stay that way. She laughed through tears. I knew you would fix it. I am not done, I said. But you are safe. Go to class. I hung up and looked down at the briefcase. The blue folder sat quiet inside. I hoped it could stay that way. If not, I knew how to open it. I asked them to meet me at their house late afternoon. No lawyers, no judge. Just the 3 of us at the same kitchen table where they had smiled at me before. I set my briefcase down and took out only what mattered. A copy of the stamped receipt from the university. A copy of the letter with the due dates the judge had written. One of the gray check images. The blue folder stayed closed at my side. My son folded his arms. My daughter-in-law kept her phone face down but near her hand. We can talk now, I said. You start. She went first. You embarrassed us. People talk. Our cards got declined. That sticks. That is the problem you care about? I asked. She flushed. We were going to fix it. You did not give us a chance. You had 6 chances, I said, tapping the check image once with my finger. And you used them on yourself. My son tried to soften it. Dad, we were juggling. We put it back. Usually not this time, I said. And not with her money. Not with my word attached. He stared at the counter. We got behind. The school would have understood. The school understands payment, I said. I slid the receipt toward them. This is what it looks like when an adult pays a bill. She pushed it back with one finger. You love making a show. I love keeping promises, I said. And I love my granddaughter. I leaned in. Here is what happens next, and it is simple. You will repay the full amount on the schedule in this letter. If you miss one date, I will enforce the paper in the blue folder. I do not want your house. I want you to learn the line. My son nodded once, small. She looked at the phone again. You are punishing us. I am protecting her, I said, and what I stand for in this family. I put a second paper on the table. 1 page, large print. Boundaries, I said. From now on, you do not touch her mail, her email, her school account, or any money with her name on it. You do not ask her for transfers. You do not move money for points. You do not call me to bargain. Everything about repayment goes by text or email. Save your pride for something else. My son breathed in through his nose, like he used to when he wanted to yell and couldn't. How long are we like this? Until the debt is paid and the next term is covered without a hitch, I said. Then we will talk about holidays. She stared at me. So we are cut out. You cut yourselves out when you signed her name, I said. This is a way back if you want one. I stood. Look at me. They did. I am not the enemy, I said. I am the man who is keeping the roof steady over our girl's head. Do your part. Stay in your lane. Earn your way back. I picked up the papers and slid them into the briefcase. I left a copy of the boundary sheet on the table. Last thing, I said at the door. If you are tempted to test me, remember the judge's dates. And remember this folder I touched the blue cover once. I know how to use it. I walked out without slamming the door. The line had been set. 2 mornings later, a deposit hit my account from their bank. The memo line said first repayment. The number matched the first date on the sheet. I took a photo for my records and did not reply. They did not get extra credit for doing what they were told. I drove to the university and paid for the next month at the window. I sent my granddaughter the receipt again. She called between classes. "Are they mad at you?" she asked. "They are mad at themselves and pointing it at me," I said. "That will pass. You focus on your work." "I can do that," she said. Her voice sounded lighter than it had in weeks. At home, I opened the safe. I took out the blue folder and added a simple note in block letters. Hold enforcement while payments are on time. I wanted it clear to my future self that strength did not mean spite. The folder went back in the safe. The rug went flat. That afternoon, my son texted a single line. "We paid the first." I replied, "Received." He waited a while, then added, "Can we come by for Sunday dinner?" I typed and erased twice. Then I sent, "Not yet. Keep going. We will revisit." My daughter-in-law sent a different kind of message. "We felt judged," she wrote. "We are not bad." I stared at the words, then replied, "You made a bad choice. Fix it." No more debate, no more speeches. They knew the terms. I spent the rest of the day on my legacy, not on them. I opened a college account in my name with my granddaughter as the beneficiary. Withdrawals would need me, not anyone else. I printed the setup page and slipped it into a new red folder labeled with her name. The red folder would live next to the blue one. One for promises kept, one for promises enforced. As the sun dropped, I wiped the dining hutch with lemon oil like my wife used to. The smell filled the room. I looked at the 2 folders on the table and felt the shape of my life settle. Protect the young, demand the right thing from the grown. Keep records, pay what you owe, and sleep clean. The phone stayed quiet. It was the best sound I had heard all week. I invited my granddaughter to dinner on Saturday. Just the 2 of us. She arrived in the thrift store coat from the photo on my fridge. We ate soup and bread. She told me about a professor who scared everyone but gave fair grades. She laughed when she talked about a stubborn printer in the library. The house sounded alive again. After we ate, I set a binder on the table. Clear sleeves, no legal talk, just dates and receipts and the page with her account number at the school. The binder had her name on the spine. "This is your book," I said. "Any time you wonder where things stand, it will answer you. If you need something, you come to me. No middle steps." She ran her hand over the cover. "I'm sorry this got so messy," she said. "It got messy because grown people forgot what matters," I said. "Your job is not to carry their mistakes." She nodded. "Will I see them?" "When they finish making it right," I said. "And when you feel ready. You set your own boundary, too. That is part of growing up." She took a breath and looked older for a second. "Okay," she said. I walked her to the car. She hugged me tight. "Grandma would be proud," she said. "She would," I said. "And she would tell us to wash the dishes." We laughed. She drove off with the binder on the seat next to her. Inside, I sent one last message to my son and his wife. No anger, no openings. Payments on the dates in the order. No contact outside texts about repayment. Do not touch her accounts or mail. When you finish, we will talk about holidays at my table. Until then, do your work. 3 dots appeared, then nothing. Good. They had heard me. I put the red folder in the safe beside the blue one. I turned the key and laid the rug flat. I washed the 2 bowls. I dried them. I set them back on the shelf. They lost their points. She kept her place in class. My wife used to say legacy is not a speech. It is a list of actions that match your name. I had taken mine back. The house was quiet. This time it felt like peace. What would you have done if it was your own son who stole from your promise? Did I manage to save what was left of my family's name? Please tell me your opinion in the comments below.
My grandpa's worst really happened. I believe him. If you want more true tales stories like this, hit subscribe.